Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this evening's LaunchPad. Today we have, we're very excited and honored to have Matt Lutz, telling us about teaching and coaching. So Matt, give us a little bit about yourself and, we're looking forward to this session.
Yeah. First off, I want to thank the SCPGA for obviously sending out that email and giving me this opportunity. It's kind of this is something I've never done before, and this is a really cool experience because I actually grew up in Southern California. I played on the SCPGA Players Tour, was fortunate enough to get a win on Toyota Tour Cup back in the day. So I've been involved, with the SCPGA prior to even starting the PGM program. My background, I've been teaching for 2.5 years at Urban Golf Performance. Prior to that, I was able to play collegiately at the University of California, Riverside. While I was there, I became the first student athlete to play in a Division I national championship, which was an awesome experience. And then after graduating from UC Riverside, played professionally a little bit all over the world. Played on the Asian Development Tour, Asian Tour, All Thailand Golf Tour, Philippine Tour. And then when COVID hit, obviously things got shut down. Played a little bit on the Dakotas Tour just to try to make some money in the time. But then I got offered the job at Urban Golf Performance, and it's been a really, really cool experience because I was getting a little bit burned out on the game, and coaching has actually reignited that passion and love for the game that I've had since, I was just a young kid. So we'll get started today talking about some of the learning outcomes. Oops, sorry. Here we go. And also just recently, I actually just went through level 1 not too long ago. I attended the teaching and coaching level 2 seminar at the new Frisco headquarters the last week of February. So if you guys want to stop me or have any questions as I'm going through this, feel free to stop. So let's talk a little bit about the learning outcomes. Know how students learn and process golf knowledge, skills, and identify implications for teaching. Know how to define and distinguish learning and performance. Understand how juniors learn golf knowledge and skills and identify implications for teaching, and to be able to conduct a physical evaluations of junior golf and create development appropriate exercise and training programs. Very, very important that we understand how our students learn. I did 8 lessons today. Each one of my students learns differently. So being able to adjust in terms of the structure and how you deliver your information is very important so that all of our students can get better. In terms of physical evaluation for juniors, I think they're a little bit different than adults because they haven't fully, their brains haven't fully developed. So for them, it's a lot more about learning their different motor skills. Can they jump from side to side? Can they jump up in the air? Do they have the skill to be able, with my juniors, I always like to start in terms of short game. Can you just take your right hand and toss the ball to the hole? We'll move on here into game outcomes. So, being able to recognize appropriate club path and club position information to improve a golfer's performance, conduct appropriate assessments to determine short game skill level of the golfer. I think if our goal is to grow the game and to get people to shoot lower scores and enjoy it, short game is a huge portion of it. It's probably one of my favorite things to teach because there's just so many variables and ways to play different shots. And I think it really helps our students be able to get creative and create club face awareness. We want to be able to define club performance terms and specifications, including lie angle, club face angle, or position, and describe their effect on ball flight and player performance. I'm very lucky here at Urban Golf Performance that club fitting is just a part of our culture, along with the other departments that we have here. And so it was honestly just the other day that I was giving a lesson, and this guy was struggling with his ball flight being a little bit too left, and it turned out that his clubs were a little bit too upright for him. So being able to diagnose those things, a lot of times, we can fix a problem that may necessarily not be there when looking at the golf swing. It's important to define what information is required to properly assess golf equipment, as well as be able to observe a player's swing in motion. Let's go on to teaching.
Matt, can you,
Yes.
When you just talked about, you found a player there or a student there, or, a participant that, was not fitted accordingly. Is that a really big thing for you guys?
It is. Yeah, absolutely. I think what we do when our clients come in is we always start with a golf assessment, which is actually 90 minutes with a coach. We actually take them through a movement screen to see if there's any sort of limitations that could be, hindering their golf swing. For example, if they're missing left external shoulder rotation and they want to get rid of their chicken wing, their body doesn't want to allow them to do that. So we're going to be fighting against those things. Even in that assessment, I'm going to take a look at their equipment and just, I do a lot of our club fittings here. So just kind of baseline on like where their swing speed's at, what their intended ball flight is. And, a lot of times for me, it's like when I'm seeing the golf swing in motion and I'm seeing a lot of things that I like, but maybe they're missing it a little bit on the toe, or they're missing it a little on the heel, or the ball's going left or right. A lot of times that can be due to their equipment. All right, so we'll move on to some of the teaching outcomes. Establish student-teacher relationships that promote greater student learning and enjoyment. Develop a communication style that fits the student and increases instructional effectiveness. I'm going to talk about this a little later on when we start talking about observing other PGA professionals. Something that we do here is that when a client comes in for the first time, we actually sit down and we call it a motivational interview, where we will pretty much get a history and I like to dig deeper into their why they play golf. What is their goal? Like some people, they want to shoot lower scores, but why do they want to shoot lower scores? I think it's important for us to know that. I teach anywhere from high-level juniors. I had a junior win on the Toyota Tour Cup last year, to people that shoot 130 out on the golf course. Some people, it's just they don't want to embarrass themselves in front of their friends when they go play. Obviously my higher level juniors are a little bit more competitive, and so by knowing their goals and their why, I'm able to structure a program for them and be able to deliver the information that they need. I would say another thing too in regards to that is, these people that are just trying to enjoy the game a little bit more, I like to teach the skill aspect of it over the technical, just to kind of get them to enjoy the game, to know what a closed club face feels like, to know what an open club face feels like, rather than getting into the nitty gritties of, I teach indoors, so we have TrackMan. So it's like, what's 2 degrees closed versus 3, it's not really going to make that big of a difference to those people. Know the format of effective golf lesson. Again, if we understand our clients' goals and their why and why they're playing the game, we can format a lesson accordingly that can help them learn to their best abilities, and deliver effective explanations and demonstrations during the golf lesson. Engage in self-assessment of teaching skills and competencies. I think this is something really important. I was very fortunate that my coach growing up, who is now actually in the North Texas section, Dave Hutchins, but when I decided to make a career change into coaching, I asked him, do you have any advice for a young coach? And he said, I used to journal a lot when I was playing. I used to journal after every round. He said, start journaling your coaching sessions. Figure out if you did a drill that you liked, start to reflect on that. Maybe a big thing for me when I started teaching, which this is actually another great thing for me, is I struggle with delivery. I struggle to deliver information clearly, concisely, without feeling like I always felt like I needed to provide some value rather than keeping it short and simple and to the point.
Hey, Matt, anybody out there, have you experienced the same kind of things? Journaling is a really good, suggestion, but anybody else out there have any questions? Okay.
All right. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the work experience activities that you are going to be doing for level 1 teaching and coaching. So you're going to need to assess your own equipment. You're going to need to observe 2 full swing lessons, take 1 full swing lesson, as well as give a beginner a lesson. So let's talk a little bit about assessing your own equipment. I think this is one thing that's really undervalued is grip size and the grip that our students are playing. That's probably one of the first things that I look at when a client comes in for an assessment is how are their grips? Because that's the biggest influence on feel of the club. A big preference of mine is educated hands, as I call it. So being able to have the right grip size in your hands is extremely important. Another example I would use is I recently had a client that started experiencing a little bit of arthritis in his right hand, and I was watching him swing the golf club, and he was losing his right hand grip in the finish. So something that we did is it felt like it kept slipping, and he felt like he had to hold on to it super hard. So although he doesn't have that big of hands, we actually he was currently playing the Golf Pride MCC New Decade Standard. We actually went to the +4 in the right hand, and that also seemed to cleaned up his issue with his grip, and now he feels like he doesn't have to squeeze it too hard. And that actually took a couple different grips for us to figure out which one was the right fit. But going through that was actually a huge step in his development, because he always felt like he was losing his hands on the club. And now he has something that he feels like he can really, really hold on to. Length, obviously, in terms of posture, setup, alignment, can play a big role in how they swing the golf club. I took this directly from the course manual, but I love this, is eliminating the word standard and thinking in terms of inches. Everybody has different body types. Some people have longer legs, shorter torsos, or the other way around. Some people like to set up with their hands a little bit lower. So figuring out what the right length is extremely important. Obviously, shaft weight and flex can, again, play a major role. It's kind of interesting. I find that some people with slower club head speeds actually respond well to heavier weight depending on their tempo. But again, being able to recognize these things and diagnose it is so critical in making sure that our clients are developing. Swing weight is just the overall balance of the club. Some people, like to feel it a little bit heavier. Some people need it a little bit lighter, just depending on the way that they swing. Lie angle, as I mentioned previously, this plays the biggest role in centerness of contact and ball direction. So if you're seeing, a motion that you like and you're not getting, maybe they're hitting it, maybe their divots are a little toe down or whatever it may be, being able to, I'm very fortunate again that we have a loft and lie machine just right outside this room. So I can go over there and, maybe bend it a little flat or bend it a little upright to make sure that they're getting that centerness of contact. I think a big thing with lie angle too is just like with the length of clubs is, figuring out what the lie angle for that person is so important. I have clients that range anywhere from 2 degrees upright to 5 degrees flat. So, I think this actually helped me a lot as I got to coaching is, being able to play around with these different things. And I did it on my own with my own clubs just to test it and see how it feels. And that's kind of how I've, built the confidence up to be able to deliver that.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt. Yeah. Just a question. So as these guys are looking at their own equipment, do you have a certain focus on this one thing or focus on something else? Kind of, if you're assessing your own equipment, what should I focus on?
Yeah. I think in assessing your own equipment, obviously, smash factor, quality of contact, spin rate is going to be a big one, especially with today's technology. Is that, I find a lot of people as they develop, we have mid handicappers and very game improving irons, and they can't hold a 5-iron on the green. But and then I also think that, for me and a better player is knowing how far my clubs go in the air is extremely important. I'm going to get into a little bit of the like in the assignment is, I would say, like, biggest thing to look for is, obviously making sure that the quality of contact is there. Are you hitting it in the center of the face? If you're not, then probably you might want to play around with some lie angle, and figure out what is the best lie angle. Maybe you want to play around with some length, and figuring out, the right shaft weight and flex can also influence that as well. All right, I'll move on. All right, so we're going to get into observing 2 full swing lessons. You're required to observe 2 different PGA professionals as they conduct a full swing 50 to 60-minute lesson. You're going to need 4 videos. So again, make sure that your phone is charged and that you're ready to go for these. You're going to need a pre-lesson down the line and face on, as well as a post-lesson video down the line and face on. Something that, my mentor also told me when I asked him on who are some coaches that maybe I should go shadow in the area. These are some things that he recommended to me was, make sure that you show up early and that you're on time. Have your phone on silent. We don't want to be a distraction to these PGA professionals. Be polite. And, I think that, something that Kevin Compere, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, at the PGA Level 2 teaching and coaching seminar said, I love for people to come and shadow me, but you have to understand that the person in front of me, the student, is the most important. So making sure that we are there obviously to learn, but we're also not being a distraction to the teacher giving the lesson.
That's a really great, awesome thing to say, because, how many, shadows have you done, Matt?
So I've, I think when I started teaching, that was a big thing for me, is I wanted to, all I knew was pretty much what I was taught. And so I actually started reaching out to, whether it be on Instagram or through the PGA of America, to coaches that had similar teaching philosophies, principles, preferences, as well as coaches that are totally on the opposite spectrum of my own preferences, just to get to learn from his, I've probably in the last 2 years, I've shadowed maybe 15, 16 coaches.
Awesome. I mean, I think that, and you said you did it on both positive, I will say positive, negative, but, the ones that are like you and the ones that are not like you. So that's great.
Correct. So in terms of taking your videos, it's important that, especially for your portfolio, that the reviewers of your portfolio are able to see the entire golf swing, feet, club head through the entire golf swing, as well as in the face on. I think people have their different preferences in terms of video. The biggest recommendation that I would make is just be consistent. I know I shadowed a coach that likes directly down the target line from the ball. My preference is back of the right hand. So again, figuring out how you like to view the golf swing and staying consistent in that is really important, because as we know, with the camera angle can be off just a little bit, it can change a lot of the picture that we're seeing, simply just in this like 2D image when we're looking at it. So I actually put up the assignment here, observe a full swing lesson. And I put this up here because I think if we look on the far left here, these questions are so important, especially when we're teaching our students to know these typical things. Also, a big recommendation that I would make for you guys is to print this out and bring it with you. Again, if you show up early and you have the time to talk this over with the PGA professional so that they know exactly what they're looking for and they can help you out to answer as many of these questions as possible, because I didn't do that with the first coach that I observed, and I ended up kind of having to talk to him after the teaching day to fill out some of this information, right? But it's important to know how long our clients have been playing, how often do they play, do they prefer to play or practice, how many hours are they willing to put in a week, right? That allows us to set some realistic goals and expectations for them. Again, we talked about club fitting. Have you been fit for your clubs? And what are the conditions of their clubs? With how much technology has improved in the past 10, 15 years, especially for an older client that might be struggling with distance, getting them into something a little more game improvement and a little more modern could create more enjoyment for the game. And then again, I think the bottom part is probably one of my favorite things, is previous athletic experience. If they've played tennis, baseball, basketball, we can use these different analogies to be able to deliver our information with like more clarity. Student objectives for the lesson. Again, I think, I've taken many lessons in the past, and the best lessons have always been, there's really one or two things that are talked about in the entire lesson, and they were built on over time. As a young coach in the industry, I had been a little bit at fault in the beginning to giving a client maybe too much information. So being able to, pick a law that you are going to achieve, whether it be centerness of contact or face angle, and using the, principles and your preferences to be able to guide them to, achieve the goal for the session is extremely important. So, with teaching and coaching, we're going to talk a little bit about laws, principles, and preferences. So a law is a phenomenon of nature that has been proven to invariably occur when certain conditions exist or are met in the model. The 6 laws determine the flight of the ball in predictable ways. These are going to be clear data points that are true with every golf shot. The PGM lists, 14 principles that are key to swing positions and movement influence, or that influence the application of the laws. And preference is going to be a choice of particular approach, method, style, device, etc. So, like a law is going to be centerness of contact. A principle could be arc width, and preferences could be maybe you like to see a little more of a bow wrist at the top, and you like to see more rotation. The list can go on and on. Does anybody know what the 6 ball flight or the 6 laws in the PGM manual are?
Anybody?
No.
All right, well, we'll get into it. So the 6 laws are going to be centerness of contact, club face angle, where that club face is aimed at impact, club head path, and that's measured horizontally. So is the club traveling from in to out or out to in? Club head speed, How fast are they actually swinging it? Angle of approach, I think, is a big one for our beginners. Most people try to lift the golf ball into the air. So explaining to them angle of approach on how with the irons, we need to be able to hit down on it and use the loft to get the ball into the air, I think is a big one. Again, I think when you start with, pitching and chipping, you'll see a lot of people on their back foot and lifting up, getting that positive attack angle. So teaching them, the ground, I think it was Hogan said, the secret to golf is in the dirt. So teaching them how to get that club head a little more down so that they can press it better, as well as dynamic loft, which is the loft of the club at impact. For a 7-iron standard loft nowadays is about 33 degrees, unless you're playing a game improving club. PGA Tour players de-loft at about 10 degrees at impact. So being able to, pick, I think in every lesson, when we start to work on, their backswing, or maybe it's their club face angle, we're choosing one of these things to really work on. And some of these go hand in hand. They may be struggling with centerness of contact due to their face being a little bit open. So again, getting our students to be able to understand these different laws and know what they mean can also help create more clarity within your lessons. So let's talk about principles. I believe, my preference would be that, setup, grip, aim, posture, ball position, distance from the ball, weight distribution, and muscular tension are vital signs to the rest of what's going on in the golf swing. I think with the grip, again, our hands are the only thing that connect us with the club. So the better, especially with beginner golfers, the more that we can give them, I call it the tour grip. The more that we can give you a better grip, the better chance that you're going to have in squaring the club face. A lot of times too, when students may be struggling, let's say they're hooking it a little bit, their grip might be a little strong. So, might weaken in that left hand a little bit. Maybe the right hand is a little bit too underneath it. So all of the, prior to looking at the entire swing in terms of principles, we can, see a lot of what's going on just from the setup alone. Swing plane is, some people like that single plane swing. Some guys will like to see the club going a little more outside the line to down the line. There's arc width, arc length, lever system, release, dynamic balance. Just like with, setup, it can be very important. Are they set up a little too far on their heels? Maybe they get a little bit too far on their toes. So, a big preference of mine is if you can get a good grip and hold the finish till the ball hits the ground, you got a pretty good chance at hitting it solid. So, swing center, body rotation, arm swing. I think that these are going to change depending on, how your student can actually move. Some of my juniors are a lot more rotational. Some of my older clients, they swing a lot more with their arms because they're not going to be able to rotate as much, and they pretty much create speed, a lot more hand speed than they do creating speed from using the ground. Club head lag, connection. My coach back in the day used to call the lead arm the radius of the golf swing, because if this is getting disconnected, and then the club's going to go in a different spot. So essentially, if the lead arm remains constant, the distance in the club head creates a circle, then the lead arm is the radius. Lead wrist at impact. Some people like to see a little bit bowed, depending on how you get there. Tempo, timing, and rhythm will all go hand in hand. Are they jerking it a little bit from the top? Do they fire their hips maybe a little bit too early? What is the overall rhythm of their golf swing? And we can use all of these principles to improve, one of the laws. So I'll give an example. Is today we were working on centerness of contact, and essentially what we realized, this is more so with the driver, is that from the top of the backswing, he was getting a little bit quick, which was causing him to get a little bit off balance, which was causing inconsistent strikes on the face. So we actually started at 50% tempo, and the goal was to swing at 50% back and through, finish on balance. And through that, he ended up getting his dispersion in terms of his contact was a lot more center face. And then we built that up from 50% to 60%, 70, 80, all the way up to his 90%. So a lot of times when people are missing it out of the center of the face as well, it could just be coming from their perception of how they're moving in the golf swing. Preferences, I think this depends on the teacher that you are working with. And this is something that I really enjoyed in terms of when I observe other PGA professionals, was learning their different preferences and what they like to see in the golf swing. I think it's important for us to know what we do like to see and what we stand by, but I also, in today's every golf swing is unique, so being able to adapt to the person in front of you is also very, very important. So the third assignment or activity in your portfolio is going to be to take a full swing lesson from a PGA professional. I think, again, I love this, especially I love taking lessons from people who are outside of, or are probably on the opposite side of preferences, because not only do I get to see them and hear them deliver it, but I also get to feel it. Again, my past was a little more on the player side, so if I can feel what they're trying to get me to do, then that actually helps me understand. You're still going to need 4 videos, so pre-lesson, down the line, face on, as well as a post-lesson, face on and down the line. And again, I can't express this enough in terms of completing your portfolio, but it's to plan ahead and make sure that we are, if you're looking to take a lesson, start in a couple of weeks. I would start now reaching out to PGA professionals, because everyone's schedule is different. There was multiple times in me completing my PGA level 1 that I had a nice conversation with a PGA professional. We were trying to set up a time, but unfortunately none of them worked with my schedule here. So get ahead of it. And, reach out to people that teach a lot, directors of instruction, directors of performance, or instructors that work at golf academies. Find someone. Go ahead.
I think that's really important what you just said. Reach out, make an appointment, or just figure it out, because I know when I was doing it, going through, you're like we just could not get together on getting this done. So absolutely, for all you guys on the call, do it. Call out and then just schedule it.
Yeah, and again, it's I think the coolest thing about this portfolio is that it's all about starting to establish a network within the community. And again, I think it's so important, just like anything in life, to have mentors and people that can help you out. And so if you can find someone who's been in the industry for a long time, or someone that's new, you're going to get 2 completely different, you can get 2 completely different perspectives. And I think that's all important in finding the right mentors. In actually the PGA coach that I took a lesson from is someone that I still reach out to constantly. I send him videos of students that I'm working with and ask them opinion, and it helped us establish a better relationship. So the last activity for teaching and coaching is to give a full swing lesson to a beginning player. Again, if you take the structure from the activity worksheet and you go through it again, I think you can pretty much take what you've learned from observing and taking a lesson and start to incorporate that into your own teaching structure. I think it's very important that we all establish our own teaching structure, because if you're teaching on the range for 8 hours a day, we need to make sure that, we're finishing on time, because, if you're 15 minutes late on your first lesson, then you're behind on your second lesson. Our clients can, start to feel that as the day goes on. I think something that is also really important in terms of when we give a lesson is it's important to teach our students how to warm up. I don't think people warm up enough in the golf world. It would be like trying to go run a marathon without doing any training or proper warm up. So, I've had a few students come to me and they want to work on driver and they hit 2 wedges and then they're ready to work on driver. So something that I've implemented is that I actually take every client through a dynamic warm up before we start hitting golf balls. Again, I think it's important to consider your opening introduction as well as how you close the lesson. Making sure a big question that I actually really like to ask is, instead of I ask, how's the game? I ask, what did you learn this week? So that they can kind of give me some feedback, and I'm also testing their retention from our past lesson. In terms of closing the lesson, making sure that you recap, the significant points that you've made. We're very fortunate here that we use the app called Coach Now. So something that I like to do with all my students is in the last 3 minutes of the lesson, I'm like, all right, here we go. Time for your Coach Now. And I'll actually record them and have them talk through their words what they learned in that particular session. And it's, that's something that's really interesting is Kevin also said this at the PGA teaching and coaching level 2 seminar, is he says, how many times have you guys given a lesson and you ask the student to recap it at the end and they say 3 things that you didn't even talk about? But it's all about how they perceive it. That's how they're going to get better. And again, the more that we establish this understanding of their laws, principles, and preferences, and how, and I like to say preferences in terms of what they do when they swing their bat. It's important for them to know those things. So when they get off a little bit, which, as we know in this game, it's a fickle game, things can get off very quickly. It's important for them to know what their preferences are and what they do when they're hitting the golf ball to bat. So next steps, I think as you're going through and trying to complete your portfolio, something that I did a lot was I reached out to the mentor hotline. We also have one-on-one mentoring available through Tom. And again, I think this is extremely important because before I actually submitted my portfolio, I set up a call with someone on the mentor line and had them go through my portfolio. And there was a couple of points that I missed in, I think it was my tournament budget and my golf operations budget, that he said, if you didn't call me today, your portfolio would not have passed. And so it's important that we use the resources that we have to be able to be as successful as we can in completing these activities. The PGA Mentor Hotline was very big for me too, because I work at an indoor facility, so I have no access to, golf cart fleet management. And so, for me, it was a little more of reaching out. I had to reach out to other PGA professionals in the area to be able to help me out to complete some of these activities.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Matt. And on that, you're right in the standpoint of, all the folks that are on the call and all the folks that are going to, view this call after the fact, because we record it. Hey, we have, a mentoring, umbrella here. So, education is, one of the pillars. And then the pillar comes in, we're doing LaunchPad and we're doing level 1 stuff. But I think more importantly, like Matt mentioned, is, one-on-one mentoring. So Thompson, he has developed, and we have developed a mentorship program that, we have for every chapter in Southern California. We have a person that's, the mentorship chapter rep, and we can get you guys in, contact with those people. And we have it then, after that local, we have a national chapter. And then, I put it down there, all else fails me. I really don't want you to call me, but whatever, but I will definitely be able to get you in contact with stuff. So absolutely, Matt, you're exactly right in the fact that you wanted a mentor. And then we have so many, opportunities for mentors. So thank you.
Awesome. And then I'll just finish up. Here's my contact info. For any of you guys, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, you can call me. I know, especially when you're assessing your own equipment, not all of us have access to launch monitors. So if you guys need any help or have any questions with your portfolio or anything I can do to help, don't hesitate to call or email me. But just to kind of wrap it up, does anyone have any further questions for me?
Hey, Matt, it's Steve. I do have a question. You talked about dynamic warm-up. Can you kind of go into what that is and what you do for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I don't know if you guys know anything about Urban Golf Performance, but we also do fitness recovery. And so it's a big part of our philosophy and our coaching. So a dynamic warm-up is going to be something a little bit more rather than just like static stretching, like trying to touch your toes. I like to do a lot of reverse lunges where people are turning over their lead leg. We'll do like some overhead squats, taking a club and being able to, and like doing some forearm rotations. So to get the arms loose. Again, it also started a little bit from my playing background, where I had, before every tournament round in college as well as professional, I did an hour-long dynamic warm-up that would open up my hips a little bit more. It really all depends. The stuff that I do pertains more so to the client, because with the recovery assessment here, I know all of their limitations. So if they're missing T-spine to the left, then we're going to be doing some exercises to open up that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, Matt, thank you so much for your expertise and insight. And, we have recorded this session, so anybody that is not on the call, you can, look at it afterwards. But anyway, Matt, thank you so much. And next week we have Brianna. I can't pronounce Brianna's last name, but she's going to talk about player development. So Matt knows a lot about player development, and Brianna's going to talk to us about player development. So anyway, thank you all so much for being on the call tonight. And then if you have any questions, please reach out to Matt or myself. and then we will be able to answer those questions. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.